Noah Bennett never believed he'd set foot in an animal shelter again. Not after everything he lost. His hands stayed buried deep in his coat pockets as he wandered the aisles lined with cages, each bark and whimper pulling at the threads of a heart he had stitched shut long ago. He told himself he was just visiting, just looking. No promises, no attachments. After all, promises had a way of breaking, and attachments had a way of shattering. The shelter smelled like disinfectant and wet fur, and a low hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. It wasn't exactly comforting, but in a strange way, it felt familiar. Like a song he hadn't heard in years, but somehow still remembered the words to. Noah paused in front of an empty play area, watching a group of volunteers toss balls to a few scrappy dogs. He could see the hope in their eyes, the desperate kind. The same kind he used to wear on his own face, once upon a time. And that's when he made up his mind. Enough looking. It was time to leave. He turned toward the exit, already reaching for the door handle when it happened. A blur of fur and muscle shot out from the corner of the room. Before Noah could react, a German shepherd, lean but strong, with piercing amber eyes, stood squarely in front of him, blocking the doorway. Noah froze. The dog didn't growl, didn't bark. He just stood there, steady, silent, staring, almost like he knew something Noah hadn't even said out loud. A lump formed in Noah's throat. "What do you want, buddy?" he whispered. The dog took a small step forward, then sat, refusing to move, refusing to let him leave. The shelter staff rushed over, calling out, "That's Ranger. He's usually shy with strangers. I've never seen him do this before." Noah chuckled nervously, but inside, something deeper cracked open. He hadn't planned for this. He hadn't planned for anything to choose him. And yet, here he was, a man who came to run from memories, now rooted to the ground by a dog with eyes too wise for this broken world. Little did Noah know, this was no ordinary meeting. This was a beginning he never saw coming. Noah hadn't always been this closed off. There was a time when his life was loud with laughter, muddy shoes by the door, and a loyal golden retriever named Daisy curled up at his feet every night. A time when the world felt wide and full of second chances. But that was before the accident. Before one rainy night stole his wife, his daughter, and Daisy, all in a single heartbeat. Noah never blamed anyone, not even the drunk driver who ran the red light. He just stopped living, moved to a smaller town, found a quieter job, built walls so high that not even memories could climb over them. He told himself he was surviving, but really, he was just disappearing. Friends drifted away, family grew distant, and Noah, once the man who always had an extra plate at the dinner table, became a ghost moving through his own life. When he finally decided to visit the shelter, it wasn't because he wanted to heal. It was because loneliness had become too loud to ignore. And maybe, just maybe, some small part of him still hoped for a miracle. Standing there, with Ranger blocking his way out, Noah felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years, a pull toward life. The dog's amber eyes seemed to say, "Stay. Trust again. Try." Noah knelt down slowly, stretching out a cautious hand. Ranger didn't flinch. He leaned in, pressing his head against Noah's palm with a weight that felt almost like a promise. Noah's throat tightened. "You're not supposed to pick me," he whispered. "I'm not ready." But Ranger stayed anyway, stubborn and sure. And somewhere deep in Noah's cracked heart, a tiny crack of light slipped through. You know, stories like Noah and Ranger's don't just happen in one place. They happen in every corner of the world, wherever hope still dares to live. If you're watching this, take a moment. Tell us in the comments, which country are you from? Let's see just how far kindness can travel. And if this story touches even a small part of you, let it grow. Tap that like button. Subscribe. Not for me, not even for Noah, but for every lost soul, human or animal, still waiting for a second chance. Because sometimes a simple act of belief can change a whole life. The shelter worker, a kind woman named Linda, smiled as she watched them. "Looks like he's chosen you," she said gently. Noah shook his head, blinking back unexpected tears. "I wasn't looking for anyone," he admitted. Linda shrugged with a knowing smile. "Maybe you weren't, but maybe someone was looking for you." Those words wrapped around Noah's battered heart and stayed there. Ranger still hadn't moved, still blocking the door, still waiting. And for the first time in a long, long while, Noah didn't feel like running. He felt like staying. But this was just the beginning. Neither of them knew yet how much they needed each other, or how much healing could happen when two broken hearts found the courage to hope again. Noah stood there for a long moment, not sure what to do next. The shelter door creaked as a breeze pushed against it, but Ranger didn't budge. He stayed planted in front of Noah like a living barricade, daring him to take another step away. A low, soft whine rumbled from Ranger's throat. Barely a sound, but enough to melt whatever defenses Noah still had left. "I can't," Noah muttered, more to himself than to the dog. His fingers itched at the hem of his jacket, a nervous habit he hadn't noticed in years. "I can't do this again. I can't lose again." But Ranger just tilted his head, ears perked, eyes never wavering. Linda, standing a few feet away, spoke gently. "Maybe you're not supposed to lose this time, Noah." The words hit harder than he expected. Noah crouched down slowly, eye level with the dog now. He studied Ranger's face, the faint scars along his nose, the way his ears twitched at every small sound, how his whole body seemed tense but hopeful, like he was holding his breath too. "How long's he been here?" Noah asked, voice hoarse. 6 months, Linda replied. "Found wandering the outskirts of town. No microchip, no tags, skinny as a rake. We think he had a family once, but no one ever came looking. 6 months. 6 months of waiting. Hoping. Just like Noah." Noah swallowed hard, his throat aching with unshed emotion. Ranger leaned closer, pressing his forehead lightly against Noah's knee, the way Daisy used to when storms frightened her. A memory slammed into Noah, so suddenly he almost staggered. His daughter, Lucy, giggling as Daisy chased her around the living room, knocking over cushions and leaving chaos in their wake. Lucy's tiny arms wrapping around Daisy's neck, whispering secrets only a dog could keep. Noah squeezed his eyes shut, willing the memory away. This wasn't Daisy. This wasn't Lucy. But maybe it didn't have to be the past to be something beautiful. Ranger pawed at Noah's knee gently, as if asking, "Isn't it time?" Noah opened his eyes and saw something he hadn't seen in himself for years. Possibility. Hope. He reached out with a trembling hand. Ranger met him halfway, pressing his muzzle into Noah's palm with a trust so pure, so complete, it shattered every excuse Noah had clung to. The shelter seemed to fade away. The barking, the harsh lighting, the cold air, all of it disappeared. It was just him and Ranger. Two souls battered by loss. Two hearts stubborn enough to believe, even now, that maybe, just maybe, life wasn't done with them yet. "I don't know how to do this anymore," Noah whispered. Ranger's tail thumped once against the floor, slow but steady. Patient. Linda knelt beside them, smiling with tears in her eyes. "You don't have to know. You just have to try." Noah laughed through the lump in his throat, brushing his fingers through Ranger's thick fur. It wasn't a clean break from grief. It wasn't some sudden miracle that erased the past. But it was something, a beginning. And sometimes that's all you need. Noah finally stood, Ranger right at his side, shadowing his every step. Linda handed him a leash, but Noah barely needed it. The connection between them was invisible but stronger than any rope. As they walked toward the adoption counter together, Noah felt the tiniest seed of belief taking root inside him. Maybe healing didn't mean forgetting. Maybe it meant building something new, right on top of the ruins. A second chance, wrapped in fur and loyalty and quiet understanding. And it had come looking for him when he least expected it. But the true test of their bond was still to come. Because letting someone in was one thing. Learning to trust again, that was a whole different story. The drive home was silent, but it wasn't empty. Ranger sat in the passenger seat, glancing at Noah now and then with a calm, steady gaze that made the miles feel a little shorter and the silence feel a little softer. Noah gripped the steering wheel tightly, sneaking small glances at the dog who had somehow torn through every wall he'd spent years building. It scared him how easily hope had slipped back in. He parked in front of the small, weathered house he called home. As he opened the door, Ranger hopped out without hesitation, like he already knew this was where he belonged. Noah watched him sniff around the porch, his tail giving a slow wag, before looking back at Noah. Waiting. Waiting for permission. Waiting for trust. Noah took a breath, feeling the old familiar panic rising. The fear of letting someone in again. The fear of loving, only to lose. He closed his eyes for a moment, and then he simply whispered, "Come on, boy." The door creaked open. Ranger padded inside, his nails clicking softly against the worn wooden floors. Noah followed, feeling like a guest in his own life. The living room still held echoes of another time. The photos he couldn't bear to take down. Lucy blowing out birthday candles, his wife Sarah laughing at a picnic, and the empty dog bed still tucked by the fireplace, untouched since Daisy was gone. Ranger walked straight over to it, sniffed, turned a slow circle, and with a heavy sigh, curled up right there, as if claiming not just the bed, but the memories too. Noah sat down heavily on the couch. His hands trembled slightly, and he pressed them together to hide it. "I'm not good at this anymore," he said quietly. Ranger lifted his head just enough to meet Noah's eyes. No judgment, no pity, just patient, quiet understanding. Noah's chest tightened painfully. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel haunted. It felt unfinished, like maybe there was still a chapter left to write. That night, Noah didn't sleep much. Memories crept in, good ones and terrible ones. Lucy shrieking with laughter, Sarah singing in the kitchen, Daisy curled up between them, safe and whole. Then sirens, rain, silence. Noah bolted upright, drenched in sweat, the past crashing over him like a tidal wave. But before panic could fully take hold, he felt it, a warm, heavy head resting gently on his knee. Ranger. In the dim light, Noah could see his soft eyes gazing up at him. Solid, grounding. He hadn't even heard the dog move from the living room. But somehow, Ranger had known that Noah needed him. Tears he'd kept locked away for so long slipped down his face. Not loud, not violent, just quiet streams of grief and relief tangled together. Noah slid off the bed and sank to the floor, burying his face in Ranger's thick fur. The dog didn't move, didn't flinch. He just stayed like no one else had. And somewhere, through the crushing sorrow, Noah felt something new growing. Forgiveness. Not for the world, not for the driver, not even for fate, but for himself, for surviving, for daring, even now, to want more than just survival. In the days that followed, Noah and Ranger built their rhythm slowly. Morning walks, Ranger trotting proudly beside him, head high, like he had a mission. Afternoons fixing up the backyard, Noah hammering crooked nails while Ranger chased butterflies. Evenings sitting quietly on the porch, watching sunsets bleed across the sky. It wasn't grand. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One afternoon, while refilling Ranger's water bowl, Noah caught himself humming an old tune Sarah used to sing. He froze, startled by the sound coming from his own mouth. Ranger nudged him playfully, splashing water across the kitchen floor. Noah laughed. A real laugh, cracked and rusty, but genuine. He knelt down, cupping Ranger's big head in his hands. "Guess you're stuck with me now," he whispered. Ranger licked his face in reply, tail thudding against the cabinet. Noah didn't realize how much he needed that sound. That messy, imperfect kind of love. Late one evening, as a soft rain began to fall, Noah and Ranger sat again on the porch steps. The cool air smelled of earth and new beginnings. Noah leaned back on his elbows, glancing at the sky. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think second chances were a myth. Something people made up to make heartbreak hurt less." He paused, smiling faintly. "But maybe second chances don't find the people who are ready. Maybe they find the ones who need them the most." Ranger rested his chin on Noah's knee, closing his eyes as if in agreement. Noah sat there, the weight of the past finally beginning to lift. Not gone, never gone, but lighter, manageable. He scratched behind Ranger's ears and whispered, "Thank you." The dog gave a soft, contented sigh, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Noah didn't feel alone. He felt found. And in that quiet, rain-scented night, with a broken man and a strayed dog patching each other back together, a truth settled deep into Noah's heart. Sometimes, the family you lose is never really replaced. But sometimes, when you're brave enough to open your heart again, you find a family you didn't even know you were looking for. Not every day was easy. In fact, some days tested Noah's patience and his heart in ways he hadn't expected. The first challenge came just 2 mornings after Ranger moved in. Noah had stepped outside to grab the newspaper, trusting Ranger to stay inside. But the moment the door cracked open, Ranger bolted straight through the yard, under the broken fence and into the neighborhood beyond. Noah's heart stopped. "Ranger!" he shouted, running barefoot across the lawn. For a terrifying few minutes, Noah's mind spiraled. What if Ranger got hit by a car? What if he got lost? What if he never came back? Every fear Noah had buried deep clawed its way back up, raw and vicious. But then, around the corner, came a blur of tan and black. Ranger, bounding back toward him, tongue lolling, as if the whole chase had just been a game. Noah dropped to his knees, grabbing the dog into a fierce hug. His chest heaved with relief, but underneath was something heavier, fear of losing again. That night, Noah sat on the floor, fixing the broken fence with shaking hands, while Ranger lay beside him, head tilted, watching. "I'm scared to love you," Noah admitted aloud, the hammer slipping from his grip. Ranger pawed gently at Noah's hand, his silent way of saying, "I'm scared too, but I'm here." Their bond grew stronger, but so did the reminders of how fragile trust could be. Some nights, Ranger woke whimpering from nightmares. Noah would find him pacing the living room, restless and confused, staring at doors and windows as if searching for something or someone lost to time. Noah understood that feeling all too well. He started leaving a light on, started sleeping on the couch some nights, just to be close enough when the bad dreams came. It wasn't about fixing each other. It was about staying. Again and again. One evening, while fixing dinner, Noah dropped a pan with a loud crash. Ranger flinched so hard he knocked over a chair, scrambling backward in terror. Noah froze. Memories of old wounds, wounds he didn't even know the dog carried, flashed across his mind. He sank slowly to the floor, lowering his voice to a soft whisper. "It's okay, Ranger. I'm not going to hurt you. I swear." It took almost an hour of quiet patience before Ranger finally inched forward, resting his trembling head against Noah's chest. In that moment, Noah realized healing wasn't about erasing the scars. It was about building new memories strong enough to carry the weight of them. They didn't become whole overnight. Some days, Noah doubted himself. Some days, Ranger flinched at the wrong sound. But every day, they showed up for each other. Every day, they chose to believe a little more. And slowly, beautifully, the cracks between them began to fill with something stronger than fear. They began to fill with love. Spring came early that year. The trees outside Noah's home wore fresh green coats, and the air buzzed with the promise of something new. It was the kind of season Noah used to ignore, the kind that hurt too much to notice. But this time he saw it. He felt it. Because this time, he wasn't watching it alone. One afternoon, while clearing out the old garage, Noah stumbled upon a battered cardboard box marked Lucy's things. For a long moment, he just stood there, afraid to breathe, afraid to feel. But Ranger brushed against his side, grounding him in the present. With shaking hands, Noah opened the box. Inside were finger paintings, a pink baseball cap, a worn-out teddy bear, and, folded carefully on top, a small, faded photograph. Lucy, about 6 years old, smiling wide, her arms wrapped tight around Daisy's neck. Noah sank down on the cool concrete floor, the photo trembling between his fingers. He missed him so much it was an ache, a burning in his chest that had no words. Ranger sat beside him, silent and steady. Noah wiped his eyes and smiled a broken smile. "They would have loved you, you know. Lucy would have tried to dress you up in hats. Daisy would have tried to boss you around." He chuckled, the sound bittersweet but real. Ranger leaned his heavy body against Noah's side, offering silent, unshakable comfort. In that moment, Noah understood something he hadn't been ready to face before. Love doesn't run out. It doesn't disappear when the people we love are gone. It stays. It shifts. It finds new ways to live. He stood up slowly, tucking the photograph carefully into his pocket. Later that evening, Noah grabbed an old, cracked picture frame from a closet. He placed the photo of Lucy and Daisy inside and set it proudly on the living room mantel. Right next to it, he added a brand new photo, him and Ranger, sitting side by side on the porch steps. Two battered hearts, two stubborn survivors, both still here, both still choosing love. That night, Noah lit a candle by the photos. He didn't say much, didn't need to. Gratitude filled the room, thick and bright and silent. When he finally sat down, Ranger climbed up beside him on the couch, resting his head in Noah's lap like he'd always belonged there. And Noah smiled, a real wide, hopeful smile. Not because the past didn't hurt, not because he was fixed, but because even broken hearts can beat again. Even shattered lives can be built into something strong and beautiful. It just takes patience and a little faith. Sometimes, second chances don't come the way we expect. Sometimes they come on four legs, with amber eyes, and the quiet, relentless courage to stay. Some hearts are stitched together by memories, some by hope, and some by the quiet loyalty of a soul who simply refuses to give up on you. Noah didn't just rescue Ranger. Ranger rescued Noah, too. That's the beauty of second chances. They don't come crashing in with noise and grand gestures. They come softly, on days you almost gave up, reminding you that healing is still possible. Somewhere tonight, another dog waits behind a shelter gate. Another heart waits for a reason to believe again. If this story touched even a small corner of your heart, let it move you. Tap the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Share this story with someone who needs to remember. Hope still lives. And before you go, tell us below, where are you watching from? Write your beautiful country name if you love dogs' emotions. Let's fill the world with stories of healing, hope, and second chances. Because sometimes all it takes is one heart willing to stay.